Imagine this. The year is 1923. A young girl walks home. Nights after long shifts at the watch factory, her dress shimmered faintly. His hands glowed bluish green. Even his teeth glow in the dark. And she was proud. Her friends nicknamed her the Ghost Girl. Laughing, deliberately turning off the lights just to show off. But actually, it's not the light of beauty. It's a poison that's eating away at their bodies. Slowly, from within. The substance that makes them glow is radium, and in a matter of months, their jaws will shatter and their bones will break from the slightest touch.
In the early 1920s, America was infatuated with something considered miraculous, radium. Radium was everywhere. Toothpaste, drinking water, cosmetics, even medicines. Because at that time, people didn't really understand how brutal it was.
And in the midst of the radium craze, a dream job emerged for young women. Painting watch dials with luminescent paint. The companies were well known, prestigious. One was called the United States Radium Corporation. The pay was high for the time. The workspace was immaculate. The girls came in with pretty dresses and hairbows. They felt lucky. Every day they sat in rows at a long table, small brushes in hand, painting number after number with radium paint.
Chick, chick, chick.
One small stroke could determine whether the watch would light up in the trenches. Because yes, these luminous watches were worn by soldiers. And to ensure precision, the supervisor taught them a simple technique.
Lip, dip, paint.
Lick the brush. Dip it in radium paint. Paint again. Lip, dip, paint. Again. And again. Hundreds of times a day. The company said it was safe. They even said radium was healthy. Meanwhile, the male scientists in the lab worked with thick gloves, masks, and metal tongs. But these girls, they were just given smiles and lies. Sometimes they would dab radium paint on their nails or cheeks before a Saturday night party to make them look glowing and they were beautiful, until their bodies began to deteriorate. It started out small: toothache, swollen gums, strange fatigue. Then one day, one of the girls went to the dentist because her jaw was hurting. The doctor tried to pull a tooth. Crack. The tooth fell out. But not just the tooth. Pieces of her jaw came off too. Imagine the horror. Their bones literally shattered in the doctor's hands. Some girls began to develop horrific abscesses. Pus flowed from their mouths constantly. Some had bones cracking just from walking. Some had spines slowly collapsing. And most terrifying of all, in some cases, their bones still emitted a faint glow in the dark. Their bodies were turning into living sources of radiation. Meanwhile, the companies began to panic, because if the public found out, their business would be over. So they did something far more sinister than simply lying. They blamed the victims. There was a company doctor who told the girls they had syphilis. Yes, syphilis. In the 1920s, that accusation could ruin a woman's life. Their reputations were ruined. Families were ashamed. People began to distance themselves. And these girls had to listen to it all, while their faces slowly rotted. One of the most famous victims was Grace Fryer. She had been an ordinary worker, diligent, cheerful. Then her jaw began to deteriorate. Her bones ached excruciatingly. But what was infuriating wasn't just the disease. It was the fact that the company knew there was a danger, and they kept quiet.
Grace tried to find a lawyer. No one would take her case. because the radium company was too powerful to reach. It took almost 2 years before someone was willing to help. By the time the case went to trial, the girls were dying. Imagine walking into a courtroom with your body slowly crumbling. One of them was too weak to even lift a hand. They sat there, thin, pale, in pain, fighting a big company that kept saying, "There's no evidence." Yet the evidence was literally in their bodies. The radium was embedded in their bones. Every second, every breath. Their bodies were ticking time bombs. The trial was slow, very slow. And the company was deliberately stalling because they knew if they waited long enough, the witnesses would die on their own. That was their strategy. Not winning through truth, winning through death. But before it was too late, the case exploded in the media. The public was outraged, really outraged. Finally, the company agreed to a settlement. The girls received compensation. The amount wasn't even commensurate with their suffering, and some of them died shortly afterward. But their story doesn't end at the grave. The Casa of the Radium Girls changed workplace safety law in America for the first time. Companies could truly be held liable for work-related illnesses. Radiation safety standards were established, workers' rights were championed, and millions after them survived because a few young girls dared to say, "This is wrong." Ironically, the light that was once considered Bulletin Revengery became evidence of murder, not a ray of hope, not a miracle, just a deadly substance that glowed beautifully in the dark. And perhaps the most terrifying part of all this is the girls never knew when they started dying, because everything felt normal until their jaws started to shatter.